Hello everybody, how are you doing? You're welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Mary Makinde. I'm a personal development coach, and in this channel I talk about anything related to personal development, faith and lifestyle. So if you're actually listening to me for the first time, you're welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, you're welcome once again. So in today's video, I'll be talking about a very interesting topic, which is the chemistry behind my academic failures. So for those of you that have been following me for a while, you must have actually understood, where the angle I'm coming from. I used to experience low self-esteem whilst growing, and one of the things that were the adverse effect of that was poor academic performance, which led to academic failure. So I'll be sharing with you the factors, the chemistry behind the academic failures. What are the things I think are the causes? What are the things I know actually caused the academic failures, and how was I able to navigate that, right? Because I shared the testimony of how my results journey and everything got transformed, how God came through, and how it's now a story of the past, right? But then I need to carry you through that process so that you understand the genesis of how it started and how I was able to overcome that. I'm doing this because of anybody who is experiencing any form of failure, right? So this is just one of the failures that I experienced, which is academic failure. So I know that this would actually help you to overcome whatever kind of failure that you are experiencing, especially academic failure. So with me here is my journal, right? I actually have a few things I wrote down here so that I will not omit anything. So in case you see me looking into my book, just know that I'm looking at my journal to check out my highlighted point. I'll be talking about 4 major things that I know caused the academic failure. So the first thing I'll be talking about is low self-esteem, and with that I'll be linking it as well to negative mindset. So many of you already understand how I experienced low self-esteem, and the reasons I shared the reasons in so many videos I've done before. So if you're actually listening to me for the first time, I would advise that you go back to my previous videos and actually listen to them so that you understand the genesis of this low self-esteem thing. So low self-esteem actually was really strong in me. Like, it was really strong. It really affected me so badly that I didn't like myself, and beyond liking myself, I felt less of myself. I actually felt that other people were better than me. So one of the things that I didn't consider to be something I could achieve was academic success. I felt like academic success, is attributed to certain persons. I felt like there's some people that are born as genius, and then the other of us are just there, right? So it was a mindset I had that grew with me. I felt like some people are just born like that. They are born to excel. They are born with excellence naturally. I never knew that everybody has the gift of excellence, especially when you're a child of God. You have the power to excel, right? But then it starts from the mindset. So I had that very, very poor mindset, and it was so strong. Continued that way, and it really affected me. So even times where I needed to read, even times where I needed to put in effort, I just felt there's no point putting in effort, because no matter how much I try to put in effort, I will still not come out as the best. So I will still not be among the very first 3 or even the very first 5. So why stress myself to try? And that is the reason why you see some people, there are certain positions that they are carrying in class, and they are so comfortable with it, like it doesn't move them. If you look at it deep down, you realize that they have this poor mindset, and that was really what I had. I was not striving to be better. I was satisfied with my status quo, and it was like that for a very long period of time. So one of the strong reasons why I had academic failure was because of my poor mindset, and I associate that to the low self-esteem I experienced. I felt less of myself. I felt like other people were better than me. I felt I didn't have a need to try, because no matter how much I try, I still wouldn't be among the best. And I And I need to reiterate the fact that it was never like this initially. I remember when I was in primary school, I was even promoted I had a double promotion, right? So that actually explains that I had a good foundation. And even this good foundation actually affects the way I speak. I'm a very sound person intellectually, but there was a problem in between, and unfortunately, the dots were not able to connect. So sometimes the challenges might not be the foundation. So you actually need to, when you are experiencing any form of failure, you need to go to the root cause, actually understand why it is you're experiencing whatever it is you're experiencing. Because while then I was in primary school, I went through a Montessori system. I was exposed to the good life, right? Primary school stage, we have very few in class. You know how primary schools can be, so there was a lot of attention. But where that drifting started was when I changed school. That was really when the drifting started, and I did share that in another video, so I will not go into that again. So it started from when I was demoted because of my stature. Like, it was so annoying. Like, who does that? Like, ooh. That was where mentally, emotionally, and psychologically I began to feel less. So it affected my self-esteem drastically, because I didn't even get an explanation. Nobody could actually make me understand that, unlike now, these days, where every step you want to take that would affect your child, you need not necessarily need their consent, but you need to carry them along. So now I understand, if you want to do something would affect the child, right? You're taking a decision for that child. Like, you want to change the school of your child, let the child be aware. Ask the child. It's not necessarily because it's whatever the child says so you're going to do, but then when you know the opinion of the child, you'll be able to explain reasons and let the child see reasons with you why you want to take that particular step. As parents, I'm going to talk about that, right? Don't just take actions. Don't just feel like, oh yes, I can, because I'm the parent, right? I'm the one to take. Yes, you're the one to take decision. However, don't forget, any decision that would affect the child, so far the child is involved in that situation, ensure you communicate. Communication should start even with a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old child. Start communicating with them. Let them know anything it is that affects them, right? So that they will be in the part of the situation, right? So they'll be involved. They should be carried along in a way they would understand, using the layman language, platform that will make them actually know that, okay, this exactly is what is going to happen. So that way the child is already prepared for the change, because when a child is just exposed to a change suddenly without preparation, it affects the child. So that was one of the things. I didn't even add this to the list, right? But this is another thing that really affected me. So before I knew what happened, so the low self-esteem thing started building up when I was demoted. That was where it started from. That was where everything got scattered, and I got into secondary school with that. So for my secondary school, it was just mess. So I kept on deteriorating like that till I got to SS3. Like, imagine, school 6 years, nobody could come to my rescue. So that's one of the reasons. And then another thing again that was a factor, a very strong factor, I had little or no support from teachers. Now, I'm actually going to emphasize on this because of anybody who is listening to me and you're opportuned to be a teacher, to be a proprietor or proprietress, a principal, head teacher, head mistress, whatever position it is, a guardian, and even a parent. Basically, I'll be focusing on teachers now. If you're working in an educational firm, please listen to this very well. I'll still face parents after this. Unfortunately, that's one thing I like this British system with very well. British system is not just about the academic performances of children. It's also paying attention to the cognitive. Academics as a cognitive. It's paying attention to the psychological, the emotional, the mental, and even the physical well-being of the child. That was one thing we lacked in our own time. The millennials then, we actually had time to be checking, why is this child looking like this? Why is this child always quiet? Why is this child? Nobody cared to know. So it was something that, it wasn't good. In the issue of my life, it's only one teacher that rings a bell in my head. Now, two, one for bad, one for good. What I'm trying to explain in this is that I never had any teacher that actually studied and noticed, this girl is depressed, this girl is having self-esteem issues. No teacher could figure it out. And as a teacher, it's not supposed to be, because the child spends most of their time in the school. They spend most hour of the day in the school. So if all you are just doing is beating a child, shouting at a child, you're not sensitive, you're not discerning enough to know when a child is in problem. It's not good. And sometimes again, as teachers, you just inflict fear in the mind of children when they are going through stuff. How will they relate it with you? Because that was the place I was. So I saw teachers as semi-god, and I felt like I could not relate with them easily, and because they instilled fear in us as children and students, right? So it's not a good place to be. As a teacher, you need to let your guards down. Just ensure that you it's okay to be disciplined, that's fine, but there's a balance for it. Be the sweet person at the same time disciplined, right? So, and when you are disciplining a child, let the child know that you're disciplining them not because you're wicked, but because you want to correct them for something. And that's why when you're done spanking a child, it's okay it's expedient that you call the child and ask the child, why did I beat you? I love you, right? I care about you. I did not beat you because I hate you. I beat you because I wanted to correct that thing that you did. And thank God we are talking about this 21st century now is actually emphasizing on instilling different types of corporal punishment, right, other than beating. So whichever strategy you want to use, that's left to you, in disciplining a child. But the most important thing is ensure you strike a balance. Don't put fear in children. If you have to discipline a child, ensure you let the child know why you are disciplining them, and still let your hands be wide open to accommodate the child. So another thing again is the parental factor. This one is very strong. You're in your 80s and your early 90s, you can relate very well. What is Gen Z parents now? I think their own parental strategies are changing. But then, for those of us that we were born, in those era, our parents most times were focused on the making the money, providing for the school fees, ensuring you're well fed, and the likes, the shelter, blah blah. Those are the things that they focused on. They didn't have the education, or they didn't, unlike now where we have the knowledge of emotional intelligence, the knowledge of soft skills generally, the knowledge of psychological education, psychological knowledge of a child, and all of those things. They were not privileged to be exposed to those things, so they never even knew that those things were existing. So they couldn't even detect to know a child that was suffering from low self-esteem. Sometimes they were even the one causing it, right? Or they actually contributed to it and they didn't know, right? It's because lack of knowledge. The Bible says that my people perish because of lack of knowledge. So sometimes some of these things, some of them, when they want to correct you, they begin to call you all sort of names. When they want to, they do things that make you feel less of yourself unconsciously. So we're not going to blame them. It was just lack of knowledge. Thank God that now the knowledge is now adequate. Now we know what self-esteem is, low self-esteem is, we know what depression is, we know what all of these things are, and now we can now be more conscious of these things. But in their own era, there was nothing like that. And that's why you never see your parents, that time. If you belong to that generation like mine, you never see that after your parents beat you, they'll now tell you, yeah, come, sorry, or they will not argue. Who dash monkey banana? So the way they say that, so it wasn't a thing for them. It was not a regular practice. In fact, did my parents ever say sorry to me before? I can't remember any. Okay, especially my dad. Especially my dad. Nah, I can't remember my dad ever telling me sorry. I think my mom, yes, my mom is a little bit emotional. So I think sometimes, but my dad, no. So we won't blame them. That's how they were trained, and that was how they passed it across to us. But thank God, the times are changing now. Now we are not more knowledgeable, and that's the reason why we have content like this to help correct, those wrongs, so that you will do better. And when you see somebody doing less, you would actually tell them to do better. You would tell them the right thing to do. Then the last thing I'll be talking about is poor reading habits. So because of the mindset I had, right, that I beg, what's the need for reading, and it affected me beyond what I could even imagine. I was reading has been a natural hobby for me. You see, one thing my parents will tell you, or any of my siblings, is that my both parents likes to read, and we have a library of books. I'm that child that everybody can attest to the fact that, while I was growing, there was no book I not read. Like, there was literally no book. I read Bibles, I read novels, I read every book readable, but my notebooks. Do you get it now? So why was I reading other books but not my notebooks? I was not reading my notebooks because I felt that there was no point. So I felt like, okay, no matter how much I tried to read my notebook, it still will not make me to be amongst the best. There wasn't a point for it. So I only read during examination period, but before then I'll be reading every other thing. I like to solve maths. I just solve, but I will not solve the math related to my course or my subject, or my topics rather in class. But I pick up my textbook. I love to solve maths a lot. So now this is where parental factor also comes in. Had it been my parents actually knew a thing, or were more conscious of, or were more observant that, this girl is going through. So I didn't mean they were observant, right, to know that this girl is actually going through tough time as a child. Probably they would have been able to help me to know how to navigate this. So because it is actually funny that a child that likes to read is failing, is performing woefully academically. Like, it was so woeful. My report card was always filled with red pen, like both blue and red, but sometimes like the red is always, right, the red is always a lot in my report sheet. And for the record sake, I was promoted on trial to SS2. So what that means is that I had a very low grade, low percentage, right, in my SS1. So to my SS2, I was actually promoted on trial to SS2. So they were like, let's just try her. So it was that bad. So if actually I had somebody who observed that this girl is actually always absent-minded, this child is always isolated. When you see somebody always isolated, you see someone always absent-minded, you see someone always moody, who cries easily, who cries for just small thing, person that started crying, know that there is more to it. The person might be going through some emotional instability, and it's okay to call the person and try to inquire. Nobody actually understood what I was experiencing, maybe because they never had the experience. Someone like me now, because of that experience I've had, if I see somebody going through stuff like this, it's easy for me to detect, but then nobody actually knew, and it affected me until the point where I was overwhelmed and I sought help myself. But external factors, right? And that's why we have adults around us. And you as an adult listening to me, always be observant in your environment. When you see children, you see teenagers that they're performing lesser than they used to, you need to sit them down and know what the problem is, because the earlier you're able to help them tackle it, the better for them, right? Probably if I had somebody who was observant and who could actually pick that there was one or two flops, right, I would have been able to find my path quickly. I would have been able to, that issue would have been resolved early enough. So those are the challenges I faced, and those are the causes. So the first thing I mentioned was self-esteem, low self-esteem, and I related that to the poor mindset I had. And then the second thing I mentioned was no support from teachers. The third thing I mentioned was the parental factor, and the fourth thing I mentioned was the poor reading habits. Remember, I said I was reading. It's not as if I wasn't reading, but I wasn't reading the right things I was supposed to read. I wasn't reading with guidance. I wasn't reading with direction. So a child can be reading every other thing but the right thing. So you can be doing the wrong thing at the right time and the right thing at the wrong time. So that was my case, and the reason was because I felt I wasn't reading my school notes because I felt like there was no point. And do you know that? Let me really share this. I had two situations. Before I talk about that, I remember that I said that there's a teacher that I remember two teachers. So let me quickly mention that. So there are actually some success experiences that I had. Let me share that, then I will now explain. I will also share the experiences I had with those two teachers I say I can't forget, the good and the bad one. Okay, now for the successes, there were actually some situations I encountered that were beautiful, right? So example, I had this economics teacher, I think my SS, I can't say the precise, I think he was even on that topic from SS1 to SS3. Yes, I think. Can I remember his name? I don't think I can. I think Mr. Akin, so I'm not sure. Now this man, I remember that he was a Mr. Do-Good. He used to use this very long cane and his cane is always painful. So he would tell us that if you don't read, like if he comes to class, it's always everybody stand. He will ask 2 questions. If you don't get, he will flog you before he starts class. That is, he does that drill anytime it's time for economics. So because of that, I was always reading economics. Like I read economics so much, and before I knew what happened, I was doing well in economics. So when he comes and he's asking us questions, if he beats me, I'll go back home and read. So then I started developing interest, not because I liked the subject rather, but because I didn't want to be spanked. I hate spanking. Ooh, I don't like it at all. Right? So because I wanted to avoid, because of how much I want to avoid is spanking, so I had to, I had to always read, and it worked for me so well. So I would read, and before I knew what happened, I started developing interest in economics. I now like economics so well. I liked economics so well then, and I did so well in it because of that because of the punishment. So there are actually certain things that could push a person. So that was a push for me. Another experience I had, little academic successes that should have actually been a pointer to me to make me know that so if I could do this, that means I could also replicate it in every other subject. So do you get it? There's no child that is a dollar. There's nobody that is a failure. I hate that statement. Like, call somebody olodo, call somebody dollar. Nah, there's nobody that is like that. If you look inward, it's just because, there's so many factors, right? This one now, I was able to do well in economics because I had that push. Another experience I had was physics and math. I shared this in one of my videos before where I mentioned that in my SS3, my mock exam, I was the best. I had the best score in physics. Now let me explain how that happened. So I had this teacher, I can't remember his name now. It's been a long time. Like which year? As at the time I'm shooting this video, it was how many years now? 12 years, I think. Sorry, what am I saying? So this is about 14-15 years ago, right? When I was in secondary school. So yes, so been a long time, right? So that like SSF, like when I was running up in school, so it's been an extremely long time. So I can't remember all the details again as much as it was fresh in my head then. I was saying the teacher, that was SS class, I think SS2. So I had this very good teacher. Yes, I think it was in SS2 he joined us. So he was teaching us maths and physics. Guy, this guy is so good. Hey, so he made me like physics. He made me like physics. Made me like math because he was always teaching it in a very funny way. Before it was SS2 and SS. I think you taught us only in SS2. SS2 third term or second term, and after a while, it did not stay for so long. So he had a way he used to teach physics in a fun way. Oh goodness, physics and math was always fun, was never boring. Like it was our vice principal that was teaching physics when I was in SS1. It was so boring. My chemistry teacher too, obviously she did not know that subject. She was not teaching because she does not need to explain. She does come write notes and she doesn't. So I guess she didn't even understand what she was teaching. Don't tell anybody. Okay, so that was actually what happened. It affected every one of us. We started doing well in physics. In the other subject, when I'm having D, having E, I was having C, right? I was having C in physics. I said, hey. So I think at the time I even had B. I don't think so. I can't even remember. It's been a long time. So I don't want to give it. But I knew that I started doing well in that, right? In that regard. So, it's doing well. So my result was, increasing. Then in my mock, something happened short. I will just summarize it because I've shared this in one of my videos before. doing my mock exam, as I was about to enter the exam hall, I did not even read because I don't even know what to read. It's mock now. So as I was about entering the exam hall, I just heard in my spirit that pick up your past question. I think I had about 5 minutes. The other thing, start getting ready. Like we had like 5 minutes to 5 to 10 minutes to the exam. So I just in my spirit to pick up my past question, and I did. And I just heard that open to solo page. And I opened to it and said revise, and I sat down and I revised in about 10 minutes, right? And it was exactly what came out. And so while I was revising, remember that I don't know if that's how to do those past questions, but the way the past question is, there are answers there. So I was studying, I would look at the question, I look at the answer. So okay, this is the answer. So lo and behold, guys, I went into the exam hall and then I wrote that exam. That exam, people were sweating like, oh, but I did, and I came out with 50. I had 50 over 60. I think the second highest aside from me was 20 something, like 25 over 60. So it was shocking to people like, Mary, how of all people you get like the average student, right? So my position then, I can't remember, but I think I used to be in position maybe like number 12th position, or maybe 12th position, I think. So but 14, we did 12th and 14th position out of 30. We used to be 36 in class, so I was about 12th or 14th position. So that was a very poor position, right? So but I was satisfied with my status quo. I was satisfied of being an average student, and it's not a good place to be. So that's it. So that was also another experience that could have actually made me realize that you are good, right? It's just certain factors that are not in place that's not making you do as much as you should. This is just to encourage you that no matter whatever failures you're experiencing now, don't give up. You are not a failure. There's nobody that God created as a failure. The wrap up of the story is that God changed my story for better, right? I remember that in the university, the day I went to the result board, and I think that was my 200 level second semester or first semester, I can't remember precisely, and I saw that my matric number had the highest GPA. I was like, whoo, is it me? Are you joking? Like I was, why my excitement was so much? It was so much because me, average student, like, and now became, glory to God. So I eventually graduated at the second overall best. Something happened along the line in university. My result dropped, but I still came at second overall best in chemistry department. So you should know what that means, right? Nigerian system. So I still thank God forever and ever. And I left that landmark in my school. Like I was very good. Glory to God, I was very good. I used to take tutorials. I was that good, right? So, but why I'm actually sharing this is because imagine where I was coming from. The lady that used to have, red pen in a report card, and then I eventually turned out as somebody who has very good results. Like I was either number 1 or number 2. So every semester it was me and that lady. There was a lady, right? So it's either she's the one or I'm the one. So that take the top of the class. So we're dragging it. So it was interesting. And another thing is the gap even between the two of us and every other person was a lot. But see, it's not even that's not the thing for me. But the thing for me was like, me no, like me. Hey. I that was an average student, like it is still a big deal for me. Like it is still a big deal. And so far since then, God has been amazing. Every facet of my life had always been on that pedestal of being overall best. Like I'll do an exam, I'll come out as the best. I'll do this one, I'll be selected as the best. I'll just be like, these people don't actually understand where I'm coming from, and that's why it's a big deal for me. And this is just to encourage you that, see, you are not a dullard, you are not a failure, you're not whatever the society says you are, you're not whatever anybody says you are who God says you are. So all you just need to do is, the way I actually said out the factors that actually affected me, you also have to do the same thing. List out those factors. What are those things that are affecting you? List them out. Try to note what these things are. When you note them, it will be very much easy for you to begin to tackle them. So when I knew these problems, I started knowing how to tackle them. I already explained how I was able to overcome that. I was able to fully overcome that. So I'm not going to share that in this video now. So the last is I'm going to give you, So the two teachers I can't forget in the history of my life in secondary school, right? So the first one, let me talk about the bad one first, and then I'll talk about the good one. So the bad one, I can't remember her name again, but I remember I was in GSS2. So I have a very, very thick and stubborn hair. My hair is, I have a relaxed hair, however, my hair looks like it's not relaxed. I don't know if you can see through the camera. My hair looks like it's not relaxed. So no matter how much I add relaxer, no matter how much. So this is what I'm also saying. As adults, don't just jump into conclusions. Don't just be wicked. Don't be mean. Try to ask questions, right? So I used to. It's always a tug of war when hairdresser wants to make my hair, right? So, and you know how it used to be now, you either make your hair on Saturday or on Sunday as against Monday as a student. So the Saturday, I think, okay, yeah, I went to the stylist and she had a lot of persons, customers. She now begged me that I should come back the next day. So when I got there the next day, later after church, I went there. And because I was small now, and I'm also actually a very quiet person, I don't know how to fight for my rights. So she will not be telling me when a customer comes, they'll say, please let me quickly do my girl's hair. We are going now, this, that. She will not be begging me, maybe please, I'm coming, I'll do it. Let me quickly do this one. And that one will come say, please let me quickly do this one. That was what happened till I was there till very late in the night. Then my mom was hungry. She was the one that came with a cane to come and flog me out of that place. I was not playing. I was right at the stylist place. She was the stylist was not begging me that I should not be angry, because I was telling her that, but why not tell my mom that you are the one that delayed me? She was actually begging my mom not to beat me though, but she was actually the one that did it. I was not playing. I was there. I was not I wasn't that disobedient child. I've mentioned that separately. So, but my mom was very angry that I was delayed there. She was like, if she delayed you, why do you not just come home and let me know that she has delayed you? That was what that was my mistake, that was my fault. So I should have actually just gone home to tell my mom that, Mom, she's not making my hair, or she's actually telling me that she's coming, and she's not responding to me. She's not doing my hair, she's facing other customers. So that was the case. So my mom was very angry. My mom told me that she was going to cut my hair. So she told me, she was threatened. She put out scissors that day that she was going to cut my hair. I was begging her, Mommy, please don't cut my hair. So because my hair is very strong, I cannot just have any hairdresser dip their hand into my hair. So this is only someone that actually understands how my hair works, and she's only that hairdresser that knows how my hair works. Even at that, I still cry when making my hair. I used to have serious headache when making my hair, and my hair is so thick, so I always cry. But one thing I never wanted to do was I never wanted to barb my hair, because I felt like it will not fit me, like I would look like a boy, because I wasn't wearing earrings as a child. I had a very slim stature. I was looking like a boy normally. So imagine when I now had my hair cut, like I didn't want it. So when I got to school that day, the teacher just saw me that I packed my hair as I was going towards I wanted to enter the school gate. She now said, she just called me. She was like, why did you not make your hair? I was like, I'm sorry, ma, that she did not even let me talk. She just started, she just said, give me the cane, get back home. She started insulting me. She did not even let me explain myself. It was so bad. And my parents are disciplinarians, if you know what that is. It has never happened that I'll be returned back home. They've never sent me back home for school fees before. So imagine when the children, you are coming back home. So it was embarrassing for my mom that people that saw me on the street will feel, that was our own perception, that people that saw me on the street might feel like, they sent you back home for school fees. And community where I grew up, so people, they are way boring. They'll be asking jam question, I don't even understand them. But I don't even remember if anybody stopped me to ask that question though. So, but then it was really embarrassing for my mom. The next she just said is, get me my scissors. Bam! My mommy used anger to cut my hair. And I went back to the school, and that wicked woman, that mean teacher, saw me and say, hey, you look finer like this. It's good the way you cut your hair. I felt like slapping her. I felt so annoyed. I remember she was my Agric teacher. I think Agric I don't make no mistakes. I can't remember completely, but I think that was what she was teaching. I didn't like her till I left that school. And so that was it, because she made me barb my, and lo and behold, I eventually looked like a boy. I looked like, in fact, people be asking me, are you a boy or a girl? I didn't look. So in fact, one of the things that I know I was also experiencing low self-esteem. So my hair was a kind of like the joy I had, because I had a very long black full hair. So that was like the only thing I cherished in my body as a teenager. Imagine somebody now took that thing that is my pride. It was really painful. It was extremely painful to me. So I hope with this, all of these points, you'll be able to learn the lessons from it. And also, don't forget that no matter whatever it is, don't be quick to jump into conclusions. Don't be more of an observant person. Don't always be hey. You the experience of, because you've always had that, okay, maybe you feel like, oh, every child cannot be the same thing, every experience cannot be the same thing. Always give you a listening ear. I never had any adult, right, like I mentioned earlier, that sat me down, never ever, and say, okay, let's talk. You get it? Oh yes, the good teacher. I almost forgot. So the good teacher, I remember, that's the only teacher that I can still remember his name. I don't remember his surname. I wish I remembered his surname. I would have loved to reach out to him and tell him thank you for that. And it was just one scenario, just one short thing that he did do. So let me explain. I remember it was my English teacher. So when it was time to choose prefect, he now called me. He was like, Makinde, you should be amongst the prefect. I was like, sir, me a prefect? I cannot be a prefect. Like, I was just laughing. I was like, is this man trying to ridicule me that, me that I'm an average student? I'm like, I don't know anything. No, he not saying no, me. I see a bright girl in you. And I'm like, what is this man saying? I didn't understand what he was saying then. He said, I see a bright girl in you. You're so smart. I've never heard anybody tell me those words. Yes, I never heard. So to me, it was strange. It didn't sound as flattery, right? It didn't, because it was so sincere. Like, and we have never had a one-on-one conversation before, so we wouldn't have been flattery. And it was not maybe we had a conversation prior to that led to that. It just was a prefectship thing, because I don't know. I can't. Like, no, I'm not even among the first 5. That was my own thoughts of the best student that did the best 5 in the class. Those are the students. For every other person, right? We were just occupying space, right? So that was my own definition of academic success. So he said those statements. He didn't say so much, but those words he said, I held on to it. I did not know how to use that information, right? But when I now started my journey into personal development and self-discovery in my university days, those words, I remember them, and I started putting them into practice. Yes, he said I am intelligent. Yes, I am intelligent. I started saying those words positively to myself. That was the only experience I had with Mr. Shola. So God bless him wherever he is, and God protect him, his wife, and his children, and God continue to increase him. So that's it. Every other teacher that taught me, if you are listening to this and you are a teacher that taught me, so you should just know that, if you are still a teacher, repent and do better. So this does not mean that all my teachers were not good, but then the need I needed I didn't get the psychological, the emotional, and the mental need that I needed from them, the mental help, the helps I needed from them. Not everything is academical needs. Not every child, it's not everything is academics, right? So don't just always beat a child and say, you are not good, you don't know me, Nah, sometimes it's not as if the child is dull. It's just that the child is not stable psychologically or emotionally, whatever it is. So I hope you enjoyed my story. I like to listen to your own experience in the comment section. If there's anything that resonates with you with everything I've said, share with us in the comment section. And if there's anything you learned you would like to imbibe going forward, also share in the comment section. Do enjoy the rest of your day. I love you. Mwah. I forgot to mention, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with as many persons as possible. I love you, and I'll continue to love you. Stay tuned to the next episode. It's really going to be a banger. Yeah. Bye for now.